Welcome to Internally Guided Life, a podcast to help you unlock a life of balance, fulfillment, and joy. I'm Kayla Sweet, and together we are going to have fun and create change from the inside out. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back, my friends. I am incredibly honored and grateful for the conversation I'm about to have. It hasn't even started yet, and I already feel so much just excitement and warmth in my heart. Like, I just know this is going to be a good one. So today we're going to be talking about grit, gratitude, and really the courage that it takes, the resilience that it takes to navigate change and to embrace something that maybe you weren't expecting. And I have a really powerful guest with me today whose story just blew me away as soon as I heard what she's navigated in her life. I knew we had to have a conversation. So today I have Laura Bratton joining me. She is a professional speaker, an author, and the founder of Ubi Global. And this organization is dedicated to empowering people to overcome adversity through grit and gratitude. So exactly what we're talking to today. And Laura's story, which I will let her speak to more, but the piece that really stood out to me is that at the age of only 9, Laura was diagnosed with an eye disease and had to face the inevitable truth that eventually she would be losing her eyesight. And so she's personally lived this journey of resilience and of reconnecting with what vision really means, inner vision, inner purpose, personal strength, like a vision that is beyond maybe just sight. And I'm so excited to dig into this conversation with her today. With that, thank you so much, Laura, for joining me. Welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So I gave a little bit of a intro to you and what brings you here, but I love to hear from the guests directly, your life story, and yours is really powerful and just also unimaginable. I think for many people, when to live with the knowledge that you would be losing your sight and at such a young age, I can't even imagine. So I would love to hear your story from your perspective. What brought you here? And I know that's like a big question, but tell us what brought you here and what you're about in the world.
Yes. So before the age of 9, perfectly healthy, no health challenges of any sort. There was not any like physical trauma, physical illness, hereditary disease. There was nothing. I was just an active, fearless child who would get involved in anything and everything. And then at the age of 9, my parents noticed all of a sudden I just started holding books closer to my face than normal. It was different than I had been doing before.
Hmm.
So my parents thought, okay, it'll just be a quick, easy, take her to the doctor, maybe get some glasses if needed, move on with our lives, our normal lives. So we go to the doctor, and even as a 9-year-old, while I couldn't understand what the doctor was saying, I still vividly can feel and see in my mind's eye. I'm sitting in the exam room. I had read, the biggie and all the letters correctly that was on the chart. And with my eyes dilated, the doctor just rolled back in the chair and looked over at my mom and just said, there's a major problem going on. And it's something that I can't correct, and I'm not specifically trained for this. She has to see a pediatric retina specialist. And my mom's first reaction was, okay, we'll just make the referral, and sometime in the next 6 months, 9 months, we'll take care of it. And he just said, no, this is an emergency. You'll go next week. I'll actually, not next week, we went that afternoon to a local retina specialist. So we went from, I was healthy, didn't seem to have any health challenges, to then this big unknown. So fast forward a few weeks from there, we ended up in Emory in Atlanta with a retina specialist, a pediatric retina specialist. And at that time, All she could say was, your retinas are deteriorating. So the cells in my retina were dying. But what they could not say is at what rate.
Mm,
So it could have been a year. She said, your daughter could be 40. We don't know. And we have no idea. So the gift is that as a fearless, outgoing, extroverted 9-year old, I couldn't process what that meant. I heard it all. I was sitting in the room. I vividly remember the doctor saying all this to my parents, but I couldn't cognitively comprehend what that meant. My parents could, obviously,
right.
but I had no idea. My response was, when do we get to go to Starbucks? Like literally, and my mom still laughs at that. She's like, all you cared about was the peach tea from Starbucks. And we just gotten this life-changing news about our daughter. So that was the gift that I received. I couldn't comprehend what was ahead.
Mm, wow. I Okay, I'm trying to figure out where I wanna go with this. So you're 9. At that time, you're being 9. You're living your
Yes,
life. You're loving
100%.
loving your Starbucks.
Yes, yes.
Um, so what progressed then for the years to come after that? I know you said this was a gradual loss of your eyesight. What came in the years to come?
Yes. So what made it real to me was I was sitting, towards the end of middle school, and I'm in geography class. And I look up at the board to copy down the notes, and all I saw was like black. It almost looked like shadows, sort of, or just blobs, just like you had thrown paint up against the board. It was just all black paint. And so I asked the person sitting in the desk beside me, like, how are you copying down the notes? Like, are you just like writing stuff down? There's nothing to write. And she just looked at me completely normal and said, Laura, nothing has changed. Like, the notes are perfect. That's the very moment it became real to me.
Mm,
So it became real to my parents in Emory, in the doctor's office. It became real to me about 4 years later as I'm sitting in geography class and literally couldn't read print anymore.
mm.
So that's when everything hit me really, really hard, obviously physically, but also mentally of, oh my gosh, this is major. What am I going to do? How do I adapt? How do I adjust? This is legit.
Yeah, how does so how old were you when that happened, when you were in geography class?
Like 14.
Okay. So you're early adolescence
Yeah.
and
Yes.
suddenly like the gravity of the situation
Yes.
hits you.
Hit me. Yes. Both physically, emotionally, mentally, on every level, because I couldn't deny it anymore. When
Mm.
you can't open your locker, when you can't read the board anymore, when you have to have large print, you can't. I mean, emotionally, I denied it, but physically, I couldn't deny it. Does that make sense? Like, it was sort of two different levels. Physically, I couldn't deny the change, but emotionally, I could just say, oh, it's not going to be that bad. Oh, it won't last forever. My vision will
Mm.
come back really soon. that was that was my mindset. Of the initial reaction was the total denial.
All right. Well, I mean, I think about where I was at when I was 14 years old and the kinds of things I could think about or process.
Right.
And that's just such a huge change to have to try to
Yeah.
grapple with, that your way of living is going to have to look really different. And it's an
Completely.
adjustment. I feel like it's different than maybe if you were born without sight and
Right.
you were raised with a certain skill set
Right.
versus losing it gradually over
Losing.
time. Yeah.
Right. Right. While you're changing as a teen, while
Yeah.
you're going through adolescence, as you said.
Yeah, becoming a young woman, like that's such a
Yes.
pivotal time of life
Right.
anyways.
Right. And then to have to totally change how you live every moment of life. It wasn't just like it affected one area, how it literally affected every second of every day.
Right. So how long from that point was it until it progressed to the point of like being legally blind?
So by then, okay, at 14, I was considered legally blind. It was already there. What happened quickly over the rest of high school, kind of in that 4 year period, it went from, okay, I can walk around safely to I totally have lost my depth perception. So I could
Mm.
see there was a stairwell in front of me, but I couldn't tell you, was it 6 inches or 6 feet? So clearly, that's not safe to navigate the world around you when you can see things, but your depth perception is completely gone. So it was in those 4 years that I basically went from pretty much full sight to just light perception. So sun, seeing the sun come up, telling us a sunny day, a cloudy day, a rainy day, being able to distinguish that, but no usable vision, nothing that I could depend on day to day.
Right. Wow. So what was that time frame like for you emotionally? Like the whole high school time frame is already like such a I think of where my hormones were. Oh my gosh, through all of high school and what a challenge it is just to exist as a teenager and
Yeah.
exist as a teenage girl and then to exist as this teenage young woman coming into herself and coming into like a new way of living. Yeah. What was that
So
like?
through middle school, like I said, the end of middle school is that denial. What immediately followed that in high school was, I can't. This is too hard. I can't do this. I said it. I cried it. I screamed it. I prayed it. I cried myself to sleep at night screaming this. That was literally my mantra and my mindset. So so the denial turned into I can't. And then very, very, very slowly that I can't turned into the, okay, maybe I can for this hour. Maybe I can for the next 2 hours. And that's where the grit comes in.
Mm,
So what I learned was it wasn't just waking up one day and say, okay, world, I can do this and I'm going to be strong and I'll push through and I'm just going to live my life and be perfectly happy. No more anxiety, no more depression. It wasn't one big, huge moment. It was literally moment by moment, day by day, hour by hour, saying, okay, for this hour, I'm going to trust the support around me. For this next hour, I'm somehow, I'm thankful that my panic attack was less than it was last hour.
mm.
So that's the grit that I experienced of literally day by day, moment by moment, slowly moving into that mindset of, okay, maybe I can do this in small amounts, not looking at the whole future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. That's such a big reality to try to swallow
Yes.
for any age. So to take
Yes.
it like bit by bit, day by
Yes.
day, moment by moment.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
So you mentioned like the I can't feeling, and it sounds like that came with some anxiety, some depression, like notably so. Like that's
Yes.
an overwhelming experience to have to try to navigate. Was there grief, anger? Like what else was coming up around all of that before you started to get to the maybe I can for this moment?
So it was, you said it perfectly. It was deep grief.
Mm,
It was deep grief. It was deep anxiety that manifested in constant panic attacks. And then, but at the same time I was having those panic attacks, I was so depressed I couldn't function. So it was
mm,
like on one hand, my body was shutting down with depression, but yet my heart was racing. And it was that typical, you feel like you can't breathe, panic attack. So it was the panic and the depression at the same time, coupled with the grief. Because again, I could quickly think back, gosh, if I had my sight I could just do this in 2 seconds. This, I could just open my notebook and start taking down notes like everyone else. So, yeah, it was that constant grief. And the grief manifested through anxiety and depression.
Yeah, yeah, because it's such a overwhelming situation to try to live with. And I
Yeah.
I can't imagine having so I've had panic attacks myself too. Those are horrible. I wouldn't wish them on my
Yes.
worst enemy.
No.
I had a lot of panic attacks in high school, and the feeling of like you're dying is so real.
Literally.
And I
It's
cannot imagine layering on top of that that you also can't see your environment.
Yeah, and that's why I never got relief from the panic attacks, because it wasn't like the situation stopped. Does that make sense? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like, oh, this situation caused me a panic attack. It's just life existing in the world caused me a panic attack. So that was extremely intense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is something that you had to navigate as a teenager that would terrify anybody of
Yeah,
any age,
a
no matter
hundred percent.
how
Yes,
strong or
100%.
courageous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or at what age, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like the move to grit was like a slow and steady one.
Yes, absolutely.
How did you start to find little pieces of hope or strength within that? I know you said it's like moment by moment, but let's talk about how that kind of evolved.
So practical examples was, it was not, at first, it was not the moment to moment grit within myself. It was the moment to moment grit that my parents had, that my
Mm.
older brother had, just the community around me had. So, again, a practical example was my parents would just say to me every day, we we don't have the answers. We don't know the future. We'll figure out today. We'll figure out how to get through ninth grade calculus, or whatever, Spanish, or whatever the subject was. So them constantly reinforcing and saying to me, we don't have the answers, but we'll just figure it out for today. While at the same time, the other major moments of grit that they taught me through their actions was, they did not change their standards of me as their daughter. So they didn't start treating my brother one way and me another way. It wasn't like, oh, you're our son and you're our disabled kid. There was no difference in how they treated me. They made accommodations, obviously, clearly, when I needed them, but I still had the same expectations as their daughter.
Mm.
So that's what I mean about those slow moments of grit did not first come from myself. It came from being in an environment of, oh, well, my parents are still treating me the same. Like, my brother and I are still fighting over the front seat of the car. Like, we're still doing those normal sibling interactions that we did before when I was fully sighted. And that slowly, subconsciously taught me I'm still me. I just
Mm.
can't see as well. So it was that constant support that then I adopted that grit. That's when the grit became, I could do it moment by moment, day by day.
Mm. So, what an amazing support system it sounds like you had through your family and your community, that the other people around you believed in you enough
Yes, 100%.
that yeah, you could start to
Yes,
trust them even if you weren't trusting yourself.
100%. That's the only way I survived. Looking back on it, I mean, obviously, I didn't realize that in the moment, but looking back on it, that's the only way I mentally survived, because they created that container of safety and support. And just like you said, we trust you. Like, you still have gifts. They were still asking me questions, treating me as just a normal kid, right? Like, so having that experience, that taught me that I could adopt that trust for myself. Yeah, that is 100%. Because if I didn't have that support, I wouldn't have mentally survived.
Mm.
It was too much. It was too overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. What a powerful testimony, like your parents to the power of community and to support and
Yes,
to like believing in someone and seeing in them like their potential, their strength, their gifts, even when it might be less successful to them.
100%. Yes, yes.
Mm. So I can only imagine like what you've learned since then. How do you speak to grit when this is something that you now support others with in like developing this as a skill, as something that we can utilize or lean into during hardship? How does someone like cultivate that while
Or,
still being
yes,
kind, to themselves?
right. Okay. So when I'm working with someone in major change, whatever that major change is for them, that looks different for every person. So when I start working with them, the first session is the gift that my parents gave me. We're not going to focus on your grit. Just trust me as your coach that I believe in you. Let me hold, and I'll literally say, let me hold the grit, that I trust you, that I see the gifts that you have. So that very first step of cultivating the grit is trusting me as a coach to first hold it.
Mm,
And then as the person can trust that, okay, I don't see that myself, but I trust you. And as I point out and give very specific life examples of, I trust you for this reason, for that reason, then slowly I present to them, all right, I just want you to wake up tomorrow and all I want you to think about is I'm enough. And just that's all you have to do while you're getting ready for your day. Just think about the fact that you're enough and then go about your day. You don't have to think about it all day. Just do it for the first few minutes when you wake up and just let that set the tone for the day. And then they'll do that for a week. And then the next week, I'll increase it. So, using the exact same model that I experienced and literally lived, teaching that, implementing that into their lives. That I hold the grit first for them and then slowly walk them through how they can, situation by situation, adopt that grit
right. Try to
until it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah. Start to trust themselves by first trusting you. I love
Yes.
that your approach to grit isn't because sometimes when you hear this word, like it can feel like, just like pull yourself up by your
Yes.
bootstraps and like power through and push through and do it on your own. But it's really from your perspective about community and
A
trust and
hundred
like,
percent.
yeah.
And just trusting that that's enough. Trusting that trusting another person, that's enough for today. Because again, like you said, we view grit as just like pushing through and being strong and never complaining and being positive and not acknowledging the difficulty. So, and that's the other huge piece of the grit that I work with people on is you're going through a lot of change. Give yourself, acknowledge you're going, that this is a really, really hard part of life. Like, give yourself that permission to feel how hard it is, to feel that this is a difficult period, a difficult situation, a difficult time in your life. And that in itself is so empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the way you talked about like the enoughness too. Like they are enough. The trust in
Yeah.
you is enough. They have what they need to show up to the
Yes.
moment.
Right. 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 We always feel like we've got to do more and more and more to measure up.
Hmm.
But getting them to that place of just being you is enough. You just existing and waking up and getting ready for the day, that's enough. Or not even getting ready for the day, just waking up, if just lying in bed is all you can do. Whatever you can accomplish, that's enough for you.
Mm. Yeah. And it feels like this would naturally kind of pave the way to that other piece that I know you speak to of like gratitude, right?
Yeah.
Because as you start to accept that you are enough or you have some kind of support, you have some kind of structure to lean on through challenge and through change. I mean,
Yes.
change is something we just so naturally resist. Like it's scary, it's unknown. We want
Yeah.
to cling to what's familiar. So when things start to feel like they're out of our control and we're in the midst of change, which is so common and only increasing in life in general, but then there's also those personal changes and hurdles we have to navigate. Um,
Yes.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
So how does it move then, and how has it moved in your heart in your life into some gratitude?
So the gratitude I experienced. So let me back up for a moment to those high school days. A mentor of mine, in the midst of all this grief, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, a mentor of mine said, Laura, I want you to start writing down three things every day that you're grateful for. At the end of every day, write three things that you're grateful for and don't repeat every day. It has to be three different things. And here I am depressed in the middle of a panic attack, and I'm thinking, you're not a good mentor. I have nothing to be grateful for. I'm not grateful to be going blind. Like, that is terrible advice. So, because I'm stubborn, I was like, okay, I'm going to prove her wrong. So, I started to write down three things I was grateful for. And what I learned in the midst of the panic, in the midst of the depression, and what I've learned every day since is she was not teaching me be grateful, be positive for the change, for the difficulty, for becoming blind. She was teaching me to change my mindset so that I was grateful for what got me through the change.
Hmm.
So that's a huge difference. I thought as a mentor, she was trying to teach me, oh, just be grateful, just be positive that you're now blind. And I was like, that's bad advice. But what I realized was she was saying, become aware, become mindful of what helps you navigate the world as you go through this change and as you live every day as a person without sight. So be grateful for those parents that made you do your chores, even when you didn't want to, because you were a normal teenager. Be grateful for the brother that still treated you like his little sister. Be grateful for just those everyday moments. Learning to be grateful that eventually the panic attacks were an hour less each day. And then maybe I went 2 days without a panic attack, and then 3 days. Actually being grateful for that. So
That's such a
the
powerful differentiation there.
yes, yes. So I want to be very, very clear. It's not grateful for the trauma. I don't wake up every day and say, gosh, I'm so grateful that I can't see. I wake up every day and say, I'm grateful that I have the support that gets me through.
Hmm. I feel like that is just a really necessary distinction as people are navigating any hardship, any
Yes.
trauma, any loss,
Yeah.
any change, because we hear this dialogue around gratitude a lot where it's like, we need to be grateful and I at this point hopefully most people have heard of toxic positivity, that's
Right.
very real. Like we need to validate what is
Yes.
hard in our
Yeah.
lives.
100%.
Yeah, so this gratitude that you came to it's not about being grateful for the hand you've been dealt that's made
Right.
life so challenging in this moment. It's what else is arising that is allowing you to continue to go
Yes.
forward.
Perfectly said. 100%. And that is incredibly healing. And that is so, so, so empowering to switch that mindset.
Yeah. How do you see gratitude showing up for you now? Like what does that look like in your life?
So what it looks like now is a mindset, a perspective. So I at the end of every day, I don't stop and literally name three things I'm grateful for. What I do is just throughout the day, as situations happen, I just acknowledge my gratitude literally in that moment, in that situation. So it's not a separate on my to-do list. Oh yeah, I gotta do my gratitude today real quick. But it's just a unconscious mindful practice that I constantly do throughout the day and I don't even realize I'm doing it. It's just so it's integrated into my day. Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
it's being grateful for the small moments. Today was a beautiful day that it was perfect weather. I had a wonderful walk this morning. Just being grateful for the beautiful weather, for the chance to be outside and just enjoy nature and the power of nature. It's not some huge moment that I'm grateful for. Rather than just everyday life moments.
Hmm. I feel like that's so much more powerful too, right? Like to naturally and spontaneously like recognize
Yes.
while it's happening
Yes.
that this is a beautiful moment.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you support people in cultivating that? I mean, I think from writing down three things a night that you're grateful for to really living life from like a heart and mind of gratitude, you know,
Yeah.
that's a long road, I would imagine for
Yes.
some. How,
Definitely.
yeah, how does that look like when you support and you try to help people like cultivating this for themselves,
So
especially
there's
change?
yeah, so there's several different ways just to based on the person's personality and how they connect with the gratitude. So for some people, once I have them do the three things that they're grateful for, then it transitions into okay, put a reminder on your phone 3 or 4 times a day where your phone will give you an alert. Be grateful. What, or I just ask you 4 times a day, what are you grateful for? For a lot of people, it's at mealtime. I'll say use mealtime to be a reminder before you start that meal or once you complete the meal, take 30 seconds and think about what you're grateful for. So just posting, or a lot of people just put reminders in their car just to remind them, sitting at a red light. What are you grateful for? Just that you're sitting there. So the whole purpose is to integrate the gratitude into our everyday life. So not making it, like I was saying, something separate, a to-do list, a task, but as you're walking, as you're sitting at a red light, as you're putting gas in your car, as you're putting your child to bed, in those everyday moments, integrate gratitude into the daily practice.
Mm. Yeah, kind of systematically give yourself those reminders
Yeah.
until it becomes
Yes.
more
Yes.
natural.
More natural. Yeah. 100%. Create those daily reminders until it just becomes part of you.
Yeah,
And
it kind of
for
trains
every
your brain to find
literally
those
that
moments.
I literally say that a million times a day. That's all we're doing. We're training your brain how to treat you. We're just
Mm.
training your brain to operate from a mindful, grateful perspective. That's all we're doing. You said it perfectly.
Yeah, it's so funny because our brains like they're so beautiful and they're so adaptable and they really can evolve, but sometimes they need a little help
Yes.
along the way.
Little guidance, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Because again, in those early days, I was training my brain to only say, I can't, I can't, I can't.
Mm.
That was because that was all I was feeding it. And then when I slowly started the process, and now for so long I fed it the gratitude, it's just a constant way I think. I don't think, oh, I need to be grateful. It's just how I live.
Yeah. And I think that that reminder of like this isn't something that happens all at once in the midst of
Right.
hardship, right?
Right.
Like
100%.
it's
Yes.
slowly cultivate over
Yes.
time.
Time. And that goes back to the enoughness. I didn't, and I think the most people I've worked with, we don't give ourselves enough credit for how well we're doing despite the major change we're going through. We want perfection. We want to wake up tomorrow and be perfect and move forward and have it all together and all figured out and everything in a perfect system. But just giving ourselves the credit to say, this is really hard and I'm just going to cultivate this over time.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be an instant mindset solution, but just like you said, slowly cultivate is a process.
I think it's like really validating too to make space for the this is hard and like
Yes.
and we are going to find ways to build that
Yes.
inner resilience.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's still how I live every single day of acknowledging this is hard and I'll figure out how to be resilient today. So even years later, even as adjusted and all the adapting that I've done, that's still incredibly healing each and every day just to acknowledge this is hard and frustrating and I'll keep going and I'm still enough.
Mm. Such a powerful like internal sense of worthiness
Yes.
that like comes on the other side of this.
Yes. 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 100%. Yes.
How do you see grit and gratitude like working together? What's the combination effect, or is there a way that they play off of each other that you notice in your life and with your clients?
Yes, absolutely. One without the other is not near as powerful and as healing. So, what I've found in my own experience is yes, having the grit of saying, okay, I'm going to have the courage for this next hour, for this next day is empowering and does help shift my mindset, but yet that's not as powerful and the grit doesn't mean as much if I'm constantly negative, if I'm constantly in that victim mindset. Okay, I'm going to be strong, but the world owes me. Just that negative perspective, the grit's not as powerful. So having the grit to say, okay, I'll have the courage for the next hour and I'm deeply grateful.
Mm.
So a very practical example of how the grit and gratitude balances each other out is so I decided, made the decision at the end of high school because my vision is decreasing so much, I'll get a guide dog in between high school and college. So when I'm at college, I can safely navigate with a guide dog. That took a lot of grit and a lot of courage to make that decision to go to California, to be in guide dog school for a month, to learn how to trust this dog. Like, really? I'm going to trust a little black lab to be my eyes? Like, seriously? Like, are you sure? Is this a good idea? That took incredible grit. At the same time, I was deeply, deeply, deeply grateful that a guide dog was an option for me. That there are schools throughout the country who train guide dogs. I'm deeply grateful for this little 50-pound black lab that was my eyes for 10 years. So that's a practical example of what I mean about how the grit and gratitude play together. It takes the courage, but it also takes the recognition of I'm deeply grateful for the courage, for the guide dog that I can trust.
Right. It sounds like it's so the grit, it gives you the ability and the perseverance, the courage, as you said, to show up to these challenges, to do
Right.
actions that feel hard. But
Yes.
the gratitude gives you like the internal
Yes. a
strength.
hundred
Yeah.
percent. Yes. The gratitude gives you the internal mindset.
Mm.
Absolutely. Because you can have, like I was saying, you can have courage, but still be negative.
Yeah.
Still, or still say, I can't, just do it out of like despite, like I'm
Right.
going to prove her wrong. and just stubbornness, which I did for a long time. But yeah, that you said it perfectly. The gratitude is that internal shift, that internal mindset.
I think about too the way that the internal experience of your life changes too. Like there's a little less resistance
Yes.
when you can find some
Yes.
gratitude.
Yes. 100%. And just more peace comes with that.
Mm,
Just so much more. I can take the pressure off myself. And if I'm feeling really depressed one day, that's okay. We'll just turn towards that feeling, accept that feeling, acknowledge that feeling rather than I can't feel depressed. I got to be strong, got to be grateful. But just
right.
having the gratitude brings so much grounding, so much centering from a mindset perspective.
Yeah. And then from that place, I think that that's probably where that courage can stem from. Like you
Yes,
feel centered, you feel grounded,
yes,
you have
yes,
something stable to move from.
100%. So they're connected and yet they constantly play off each other.
Mm.
Does that make sense? There is like you can't now I can't separate one from the other because they're just constantly feeding each other.
Yeah, it's creating this framework for
Yes,
how to navigate life and to find the
yes,
beauty in it, even amid
yes,
challenge.
yes, absolutely. Yes. Because the challenge is still going on,
Right.
that is just navigate, using that to navigate. Yes.
Well, and I heard a lot like of your from this whole conversation, from your whole story of moments of courage and also moments of vulnerability. I think of like
Yeah.
the trust that you ask your clients to put in you and the trust you have to put in
Yes.
your community. Like that's also very scary and vulnerable, and that requires courage too.
Right. It is. It is still, courage to, like I was saying, really, I can trust a black lab? Like, what if she sees a squirrel? Like, I mean, obviously she's trained and she never did that, but yeah, to trust the dog, to trust the people around me. Absolutely. That's intense trust.
So when you think about like I guess the courage that you had to have throughout your life to continue to take these steps forward amidst change, how do you relate to this concept of courage if we were to kind of pull that out as a part of grit, but not all of it? Because I feel like grit's this like multifaceted phenomenon, but looking
Yeah.
at the courage piece.
So in my experience, the courage, and I'm hesitating because this is not lived. I'm still working on this every single day. Most of the courage is acknowledging the difficulty.
Hmm.
So not pretending being blind in a sighted world is easy, right? Because again, that I could have that perspective. Oh, this is just easy peasy. Almost like trick my mind that it's easy and simple. So for me, and I did that for a long time, and that only led to more depression, more anxiety because I wasn't acknowledging what is.
Hmm.
As soon as I had the courage to say, wow, this is really, really, really hard, that's when I had the courage. That's when courage became courage.
Hmm.
So again, it's acknowledging it's really hard and that's okay. And also at the same time, choosing that tenacity that I believe I'm enough, even in this is really, really hard. So to me, that's courage. Sitting in the uncomfortable mindset of this is just a lot. This is hard. This is 12 million times more effort than if I were to do the same task than if I was sighted. So
Hmm.
just giving myself permission to sit in that gives me so much courage because then I have the space to move forward.
Yeah, I think of like it really does take so much courage and bravery to acknowledge our hardships or the
Yes.
uncomfortable emotions. Like
Yes.
to sit with those is scary. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I vividly remember, just like I vividly remember that Dodge point when I was 9. I vividly remember sitting in a counselor's office, and I was telling her about my panic attacks and my anxiety. And her response was, Laura, just turn towards it, just sit with it. And I was like, that's again like that mentor. That is terrible. Like, you want me to turn towards my panic attack? No, thank you. Like, I'll find a new counselor, you know. But again, I came home and I just, for like 2 minutes, just sat with the panic attack. And then I just got up and kept going about my day. And I was like, oh, wow, the panic attack did get a little bit less. It's not as severe. And again, like my mentor, I realized what that counselor was teaching me. What you were saying, have the vulnerability to sit in the pain. And when we turn towards it and sit in it, it actually gets less and less and less.
Yeah, I think sometimes the challenges and the hardships, they just part of what they need is our attention and our honesty.
Yes, 100%. Yes,
But it is hard. It's hard to
yes.
find that courage to do that, to sit with the hard stuff.
It's hard to live that out in life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So much
absolutely.
easier to try to like distract or numb up
Distract.
or uh-huh.
Yes, yes, yes. I have to be very mindful of that, of not numbing out. And just a very practical example, even earlier this week, I was just super anxious and I couldn't really figure out why. And my immediate reaction was just be busy, just check your email, like just get on social media, just totally distract. But when I just stopped and I literally like walked outside and just stood there and just let myself feel really, really anxious for 15 minutes, it just slowly went away.
Mm.
So I have to be very mindful of what you said, just not numbing out with distractions, but turning towards and just sitting with.
It's such a powerful, I think, life lesson. With all challenging emotions and experiences, to learn to be with them. It,
Yes.
yeah, that's where the healing happens, but it's a hard place
Yes.
to go.
A very hard place to go. And it's not comfortable. You
Uh-huh.
know, it doesn't feel good to stay there 15 minutes and feel like you're dying of a panic attack.
Right.
You know, like nobody wants that. I wouldn't recommend that either. But it worked. I would recommend it because it works.
Right. Yeah, be with it, even though it's
Yeah.
hard.
Even though it's hard, just yeah. And that's the gift of being that presence as a coach to say, I'm sitting here with you to say the panic attack, feeling it is miserable, and what helps you move forward.
Mm. Yeah, you got to go through the
Yes,
pain.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
get to
yes.
the other
We
side.
can't go around it.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Right,
sometimes.
right. I
Like,
want to. I try really hard to.
right. It's just still there.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've navigated just so much immense change in your life with honestly like I mean grit, gratitude, grace, resilience, like you're doing it. And
Yeah.
this is something that's so hard for people and I think I mean we've spoken to change a lot throughout the episode, but how do you support people, or what would you recommend, I guess, for listeners who might be facing change right now and just feeling overwhelmed?
Focus on your strengths. As we're going through intense change, I've experienced it in my life. I've experienced it in people, every person I've worked with. When we're going through a major change, that's our whole perspective. So our whole mindset, emotions gets laser focused on the change. So when we can step back and have perspective of, in the midst of this change, I still have this strength of A, B, and C. To so we're shifting our mind not in the way of distracting, numbing out, but reminding us while the change is still going on, this is still a strength of mine.
Mm.
So first, supporting people by acknowledging their strength is incredibly healing and puts the change in perspective. That yes, this change is huge. Yes, this change, like in my example, might change every aspect of your life. And in that, Let's still focus on who you are as a person with an incredible purpose and gifts for this world.
Mm. Yeah, I love that emphasis on the strengths through the change because it
Yes,
reminds you that you are equipped with these inner resources.
right. And yes, you are going through the change, but the change is not all of you.
Mm.
The change, you didn't just become this whole being just going through this change. You're going through this change while you're still a whole being with strengths.
Yeah. Are there any like just common misconceptions or myths or stories that you hear people tell about change that make it harder to navigate it that you wish there could be a different perspective on or how to help people think about change so that it's feels more accessible to navigate?
It's never, ever going to get better. This change will last forever. That's what I hear. That's what I told myself. And that's what I hear from so many people is I'm going to live in this change for the rest of my life. Again, and that's where the power of the grit of having someone hold that perspective of this is really difficult and this change is not going to last forever. And what I mean by that, what's not going to last forever is the mindset.
Mm.
Because in my situation, the change of being blind in a sight world is lasting forever. For a lot of people I work with, maybe their change is not going to get better, just like I didn't wake up and gain my sight. But what is going to change and what is going to get less intense is the fear of change.
Mm.
And knowing and giving that hope of this fear, this panic, this anger, these tears are not going to last forever. It feels like in the moment, let's validate that. And also know that it's not going to last forever from a mindset perspective.
Right, the experience, the
Yeah.
internal experience of
Yeah.
it will change over
Yes.
time. Yeah.
Yes. The actual physical experience may still be incredibly hard to change if you're grieving the death of a close loved one or whatever the situation might be where it's ongoing, that might not change, but your internal experience will change. The fear will get less. The nightmares at night, the intense anger, that will heal. That will get less intense.
Mm. Such a powerful message of like hope through hardship.
Yes. Yes. Because I love how you said the hope through hardship because it's concrete hope. It's not like, oh, I hope I get my sight back. Right.
Right.
And just me hoping that every day. That doesn't help me from an internal perspective. But the concrete hope of these panic attacks do get less. The fear does decrease. That's the hope that comes within the mindset change.
Mm. Yeah, it's something that we can actually hold on to without feeling like we're lying to ourselves.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. 100%.
Oh my goodness. This has been such a powerful conversation. I feel like we've just really explored so much depth. And I would want to make sure we don't get to the end of the show without me asking a little bit about your mission and the work that you're doing and what kind of impact you're making through your work. So I want to just open up some space to hear, what your mission and your message are as you support people and
Yeah.
navigating all of this.
So, my whole mission and message and purpose and passion is to take this incredibly difficult experience and the grit and gratitude that I received, both from those around me and then eventually internalizing myself, giving that to other people. So, not just saying, okay, I received this great gratitude and this internal change. That's great for me. But my mission, what gives me that passion, that drive every single day is to share it. We all go through intense change at different times, at different levels, but we all experience it at all different points in our life. So if I can be that voice and that presence through speaking and coaching to speak that grit, to speak that gratitude in an empowering way, a very practical, empowering way, not just to be motivational, inspirational, but to literally give practical, actionable takeaways through the speaking, through the coaching. That's what drives me.
Mm.
That that gives, as I say all the time, that gives the emotional pain purpose.
Yeah, what a powerful message and gift. And I I love your emphasis too on like the one, you're very realistic, and I think that that helps people to navigate these when it feels
Yes.
accessible and
Yes.
practical. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it just coming from the perspective of, and again, I can circle back to my own experience in those high school days. If it was a TV show or radio or whatever, or just someone I was literally interacting with, if they came across like it was all perfect and they went through this huge change and it was every day was great and it all worked out and life was all roses, I couldn't connect with that.
Mm,
It made me feel less than because I was sitting there with a panic attack, right?
mm,
And knew I was going to cry myself to sleep at night saying, I can't. So, interacting with people who didn't share the real pain, the vulnerability, did not help move me forward. So, that's what makes me so passionate about now being that voice that through speaking and coaching, I can speak to the realness while also speaking to the incredible empowerment of the grit and gratitude.
mm. You're right. I think that is something people so need to like we don't need someone telling us that there's nothing that's ever going to be hard again after a certain point because
Right,
that's a lie.
right,
We know like
right,
hard things are happening
right,
now and there's going to be
right,
more hard things to
right.
come.
100%. And they will continue to come in so many different forms.
Yeah.
And just having those resources and that empowerment of the grit and the gratitude that I can give that tool to people is incredibly empowering, and to see how they use it in a completely different way than I use it. They take it and put their own personality with their own situation is so incredibly powerful. So I'm not saying do these 5 steps, do these 3 steps, and you'll never have hardship again, right? But
Right.
I'm saying here's tools when you experience hardship.
Mm,
And then they can take those tools and specifically adapt them to their life, their situation, their mindset.
yeah. What
So
what a
I
what a gift.
I see myself as just the activator. If I can just activate the grit and gratitude in you, that's my mission.
And then people have those resources then
Yes.
for all future challenge.
Yes. Yes. 100%. Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up, I can't even believe I just looked at the time. I can't believe we've been chatting for an hour. It's flown by. I want to ask one more question though before I kind of conclude the episode here, and that is just, is there anything that you hoped we would speak to or that you really feel called to share that there hasn't been an opportunity to yet? I just want to open the floor for a second.
The main message, and again, it's been woven through this whole conversation, but to say very succinctly, is acknowledge the change you're experiencing. Give yourself the credit to acknowledge this is really, really hard. Change is difficult. It's hard. You wish it wouldn't happen. Like just to say that, just to acknowledge that. And then at the same time, just choose to believe that you're enough for the next 5 minutes. And that will help you navigate through.
Hmm, beautifully said. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, they want to follow the work you're doing, maybe they want to work with you? Where do they go?
Yeah. So the best place is my website, laurabratton.com.
Perfect. Perfect. We'll make sure that is in the show notes to make it easy for folks. This has been such a joy. Thank you so much for your heart, your story, your insight. Your journey is just such a powerful reminder that even through the hardest changes, the darkest moments, the most overwhelming challenge that could be put in front of us, like we do have the capacity to move through it and to find a different way of living. And that's a reminder I think everyone could use right now.
And thank you for the opportunity just to speak on it, because it's not talked about enough, the balance of acknowledging the hard but also moving forward, that you can do both at the same time. So thank you for creating that space.
Yeah, it's been such an honor, such a joy. I've loved this conversation. I kind of don't want it to end, but we can stay connected because I'm feeling just very inspired by you and the work you're doing, and so grateful to know that you're out there sharing this message. It's so needed.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm so grateful.
All right, my friends. With that, we will say goodbye. I hope you can take something that Laura has shared today and weave it into your life. Find a way to make it real. Give yourself those 5 minutes of enoughness. Validate your experience and find a way to move forward in spite of the challenge or with the challenge using all of these tools. Thank you so much. I will talk to you all soon. Take care of yourselves out there. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. If this episode spoke to you, please take a moment to follow, rate, and share it with someone who might need it. If you're looking for more tools to help you thrive in your life, or if you're curious about working with me, please visit my website at internallyguidedleadership.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok at Internally Guided Coach. Be gentle with yourself out there, and I'll talk to you next time.